What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of the Titans Time Podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Staggs. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Tyler Staggs. We've got the upcoming game on Sunday to talk about the Tennessee Titans against the Houston Texans in Nashville. We've got the injury report, bold predictions, score predictions, and just us two talking about the game. So those are some of the things that we're going to be covering. Stay tuned to hear all of that. Tyler, I know that ESPN has the Titans favored by 3 points, or at least that is the latest that I've seen today. How do you feel about that?
It's weird actually being favored in games now. We're not used to the national media really giving us I guess, the attention that we deserve, or
The
even
credit.
the credit. That's the word I was looking for. So, there's times where it makes me a little bit nervous when they favor us because, we're thought of as that underdog, and it lets us have that chip on our shoulder. But at the same time, this Texans team is kind of, I don't really know what to think of it. I mean, they're 1-4 and got their first win against a Jaguars team that has just fell apart since they played us. And, we'll get into some keys to the game later, but it's weird, but it's also nice to be favored in these games.
Well, I know the Titans always play better, I feel like, with a chip on their shoulder, like you said, or, being the underdogs. I feel like they always play better that way. I don't know. I just feel like a 4-0 team facing a 1-4 team should be favored by a little bit more. And I know it's the NFL, anything can happen. Any team can come out and beat another on any given day. But I feel like the Titans are probably at least 3 points, or I'm sorry, 6 points better than the Houston Texans. I feel like that spread should be a little bit more. If you're betting on the spread, I mean, I'm not a betting expert or anything like that, so I probably honestly wouldn't take my advice, but I feel like that's pretty favorable for the Titans.
Well, and that's where, you're talking about feeling like it should be more of a spread. Maybe that's where we get the chip on our shoulder for this week because, they're giving us some respect, but still disrespecting us by saying, oh, well, the 4-0 Titans are just going to be a 3-point favorite over the 1-4 Texans.
Right.
So maybe that's where we get the chip on our shoulder and, Titans versus the world, man. Titans versus the world.
And maybe that has something to do with the injury report that came out today. And maybe as some of these injuries become a little bit clearer, that margin will increase a little bit. But as far as, the names that are on the list today, there are two that did not practice today, and that is A.J. Brown, Jadeveon Clowney. And then on IR is Darrington Evans. Excuse me, there were more than two that did not practice today. One of those being Daquan Jones and Chris Milton. Those were the two names that I'd missed. And then limited in practice was Nick Zubner, Chris Jackson, Jonathan Joseph, Joshua Kalu, Dennis Kelly, Taylor Dewan, Jeremy McNichols, Laurel Murchison, Kareem Orr, Jonnu Smith, Kenny Vaccaro, Nick Westbrook, and Malcolm Butler. So that is a huge list of names. And, if you were able to listen all the way through that without tuning out, for one, props to you. And for two, you heard that there were a lot of key names on there.
Yeah, 17 guys on that injury report. Luckily, we only have one that is going on injury reserve, and that's Evans, Darrington Evans. But he's only going to be on there. He's on the short-term IR.
Well, it's a minimum of 3 weeks.
Right, 3 weeks.
And it could end up being longer, but we've at least got that to look forward to, that he can be back
right.
in 3 weeks.
But at least we don't have more people that have been put on that. And all the guys that you named off, especially the key guys, I'm not going to look too much into them missing practice today. I mean, they just played Tuesday night. We're talking about 2 days ago, because we're recording this on Thursday. So I'm not going to look too much into it because they're needing that recovery time. And I fully expect these guys to play on Sunday. Like, I don't see them being kept off the field or anything like that.
There is two that I see that I am a little worried about, and that's Chris Jackson and Dennis Kelly. Chris Jackson with a hamstring injury, and Dennis Kelly is dealing with a groin injury. And so that leads me to believe maybe we see Isaiah Wilson this week.
We could see a panda sighting this week.
That that would that would make me feel good because I was big on him coming in and actually being the starter at the beginning of the season. So seeing him get to actually play a game would at least make me feel a little better about my thoughts on him coming into the season.
Yeah, if he does get to finally be out there, I'm excited to see what he can do. And, you know, I said that I believed halfway through the season we might see him come in, and we're getting close to that mark. Granted, wish he could have a little bit more practice time since he's been on the COVID list for what feels like forever now, and he finally got to come off of it. You know, he wasn't able to be active for Tuesday night's game. The NFL made the Titans wait until Wednesday to be able to actually activate him. So, maybe we see a panda sighting. And I'm just going to tell you, against this Texans defense that's not very good against the run, I'd like to see Derrick Henry running behind big Isaiah Wilson.
Well, would it not just be absolutely amazing after everything that we've heard about Isaiah Wilson? He's out of shape. He's honestly, we've heard he's just not good. From a couple of times we've heard that as well, and then all of the COVID related issues and all the different kind of things that we've heard about him. Would it not just be great for him to come out and play a spectacular game if he does get to play?
Oh, it would be huge. But granted, if he does get to like if Kelly is out and Isaiah Wilson's in, he's going to have a tough test for his first game, because I believe he would have J.J. Watt lining up across from him. And I know Watt's getting older. He's been kind of injury prone over the last couple years, but you can't question the man's work ethic, and he puts in the time. And there was a point where he was the best defensive player in the game. And
Shout outs.
do what?
Easy with the shout outs.
I'm not really giving him a shout out. I'm just saying that you still have to respect his game some, and that could be a tough matchup for Isaiah Wilson to have to come into if he does get his first playing time this next week.
Right, agreed. And then there's a name on this injury report that we've been missing for a few weeks now. That of course played in the game and now is showing up that he did not practice. That's AJ Brown.
I don't like seeing where he's not at practice, but with I believe it was a knee bruise that he had, correct?
Right. Do you think that this is kind of an indicator they may have brought him back too early?
I don't think so. I think it's just since he had that knee bruise, he come out and played a very good game against the Bills. I think they're just giving him an extra day of rest. Even if he rests again tomorrow, I think they're just letting him rest up and keeping him ready for game day. He even talked about how after the game, he's done more than what they were probably wanting him to, because he was so ready to get back out there. He was making sure every chance he got, he was icing his knee, doing whatever he could to get back as quick as possible. So I don't see him coming back for just the Bills game and then being out a couple of weeks again. I think he's going to be out there.
Right. Hopefully there are not any setbacks or anything like that. And hopefully this is just kind of a precautionary thing to give him some more rest before we play.
And some other big news, Jeffrey Simmons coming off the COVID list today. So very
it's
good
be
chance
huge to have him back on Sunday if he is able to play.
Yeah, if he's able to play, then I'm expecting some pretty big things from our defensive line because, I haven't got to watch the Texans much this year, but I don't believe their guards are that good. And Jeffrey Simmons could have a field day with those guards and getting back there to Deshaun Watson.
Right. Well, let's talk about the Texans a little bit because we talk about the Titans week in, week out. They're always the constant that we're talking about. So let's talk about their opponent, Houston Texans. They have not had a whole lot of success with the run. They've only been averaging 84.6 rushing yards per game, but they have averaged just over 290 passing yards per game. And obviously that comes from, Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller leading that passing attack. There is
Yeah,
one weakness, though, with that passing game. And that is the fact that Deshaun Watson has been sacked a total of 17 times so far this season. And that's the third most in the NFL. And that's a huge number when you compare it to the 3 times that Ryan Tannehill has been sacked this season.
yeah, that's a major difference there. And here's to hoping that means our pass rush can actually get it done this week. I want to see Clowney get back there and get a couple sacks. I want to see Landry getting some more sacks and Simmons. I want to see all these guys just getting back there and terrorizing Deshaun Watson.
Right. And
And
one added benefit is that Laramie Tunsil is actually questionable for the game. I would say he's one of their best offensive linemen. They're at tackle, and if he misses the game, that's going to leave huge holes in their offensive line. There's already holes in their offensive line even when he is in the game. And so this will give the Titans a chance to improve on third downs. They'll be able to get more pressure on Deshaun Watson. And, getting pressure on him is going to be a huge step towards forcing the Texans offense kind of into a stagnant state. So if they can get out early and do that, maybe they can bring the Texans offense to a halt early and keep it that way.
yeah, that's one thing. You kind of mentioned it about getting off the field on third downs. They need to make sure that they keep Deshaun Watson contained. I mean, we've seen it in the Bills game where we would get them in third and long situations, and our pass rush would get so close to getting Josh Allen, and he would find a way to slip out of the pocket, extend the play, and get the first down. And I mean, Deshaun Watson has that same ability. He's probably even, I would say, more mobile than Allen is. And he can, if our pass rush is just getting close to him and he's able to slip out of the pocket, he can extend these plays and, make us pay. So, got to keep him contained.
So the Texans have fired Bill O'Brien, and that was, I believe, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, man, could they not have kept him just for a couple more weeks and let us get this first game against them over with? I mean, just that would have been the icing on the cake for this year with all of the moves that he's made to just get to beat him one more time and have that under our belt.
Right. Well, what I was going to ask you is, how do you feel like a new head coach is going to impact their, ability to maybe stick with the Titans in this game?
Um, when coaching changes happen during the season, it's always 50-50 on how it can go. Either the team can fall apart or the team kind of gets a new life about them. And I would say that this team has gotten a new life about them, considering they got their first win this
But it was
past
against
week.
the Jaguars.
That is the point I was going to make. It was against the Jaguars. And I don't know. I'm interested to see how they do against the Titans. They have some weapons on the offensive side of the ball. We'll talk about the offense first for them. They have weapons and they can make things happen, especially if Deshaun Watson can extend plays. So as long as they're getting some better play calling than they were the first 4 weeks of the season, there's that chance that they can stick with the Titans. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think the Texans are kind of on the ropes right now and just absolutely, you know, obliterating them could, knock them out in their season and in their hopes of maybe somehow making a comeback in the AFC South and clinching like a wild card or something.
That's the main thing for me with this game is since they are in the AFC South, right now we're at the top of the AFC South and at the top of the AFC just in general. I mean, as a Titans fan, I want this win just because it's the Titans playing football. But then looking into it more, this just grows our lead in the division and gives us another win against an AFC opponent and keeps us atop of the AFC. I mean, just yeah.
Always the division game, or the case with every division game, you want to win it because it
Yeah.
just increases your chances to make the playoffs. That's the end goal: playoffs, Super Bowl.
And
And
you mentioned their Russian attack. I want to jump back to that right quick. Right now, they rank 30th in the league in rushing yards and 26th in rushing touchdowns. But that being said, the Titans are giving up 5.5 yards per carry still and ranked 27th in the league in rushing yards. So we got to make sure that we keep the Texans contained there. Like, yes, their rushing attack hasn't been that good this year, but our defense doesn't need to be the defense that lets them get going and have a big game.
Right. Well, that's exactly what I was about to say is, you can say all day long the Texans have been, bad against the run so far this year, which is kind of funny because it seems like that's what Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins away to improve, trading him for David Johnson. It just doesn't seem like that has worked out for him. As we said during the offseason, it wouldn't. But, I just feel like the Titans are always the team. When you say someone or a team is bad at something, they let them have a good game. Kirk Cousins had like the worst passer rating of his career, worst QB rating of his career the week before playing the Titans. And I put my thoughts out there that he was going to have another bad game, and he comes out and plays an incredible game. So,
all right. Well, another thing I want to throw out there, and by no means am I saying that at one point David Johnson was one of the better running backs in the league. At no point am I saying
for a year, you mean?
Right. I'm not saying he's on Dalvin Cook's level at all when I say this, but before the Vikings played the Titans, Dalvin Cook didn't have 100 rush yards yet in a game. And then he comes out and has 180 on the Titans. I mentioned the 5.5 yards per carry that they're allowing, and that's last in the league. They're ranked last in the league for yards per carry. So they've done a lot better against the Bills. And
right, but you look at the fact that Daquan Jones is, he didn't practice today, and that leaves them without one of their best run defenders.
Right, but Daquan, like you mentioned, he played this past week against the Bills. He hadn't practiced yet this week, but we're getting Jeffrey Simmons back, and we didn't have Simmons against the Bills. So Daquan stepped up, done what he needed to do. I mean, he was blowing plays up. When I was watching that game, he was making the running backs have to make that extra cut, trying to get to a different hole, different gap, and he was just there. And I think even if Daquan doesn't play this week, Jeffrey Simmons is going to be the guy to do that. And he can step up and do that because he's been – I'm willing to say he's probably been our best defensive player so far this year. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Mm, I don't know. I know that that's a bad answer to give, but I don't know. I don't.
I mean,
Um,
he's been a difference maker for us.
right. Agreed. I think I would agree with you. I think I would. Um, we've talked a lot about the Titans how the Titans need to go about stopping the Texans. We haven't talked a lot about how they should go about putting points up against the Texans, and I don't think that's going to be very hard, honestly, which is why we haven't talked a lot about it. I mean, things have been going really well for the Titans offense. They've scored 30 or more points in each of their last 3 games. They're going to have more offensive talent on the field for this game than they did against the Bills. And the Texans defensively aren't as good as the Bills. So to me, it's a no brainer. In my opinion, it just does not seem like the Texans have what it takes to stop the Titans this next week. And if they want a chance to stay in the game, they're going to have to score with the Titans and be up there around the mid 20s, even into the low 30s.
Do you think this is going to be Derrick Henry's breakout game?
That
And
is,
when I say breakout game, I mean I know he's had a
oh,
game with 100.
I understand what you mean.
All right, just making sure. Do you
Um,
think this is that game?
well, when you look at the fact that the Texans are missing their probably one of their better run defenders, the linebacker who was put on IR, and I can't exactly think of his name, but he's been one of their better run defenders this season. That leaves another hole in their defense, and Derrick
All right.
Henry
Well,
is going to do what Derrick Henry does.
I'm big on stats, and we talked about where the Titans defense ranks against the run. The Texans rank 31st in the league in rushing yards allowed this
Right. I
season.
was going to say that they've been bad against the run this season, but I didn't have the stats to back that up, so that's kind of why I was hesitating to say that.
They rank 20th in rushing touchdowns allowed and rank 24th in yards per carry allowed. So I think this could be Derrick Henry's breakout game. I mean, going up against the Texans team, they've only had one game where they held the opponent under 100 yards rushing, and that was against the Jaguars. Um, right now, or just looking back at their
Which
stats,
absolutely killed my hopes in fantasy football because I made the amazing pickup for James Robinson and really, really needed him last week.
going back through the past 5 weeks for them, Jaguars had 75 rushing yards against them. The Vikings had 162 rush yards against them. The Steelers had 169. The Ravens had 230 rush yards against them. And the Chiefs had 166 rush yards against them. So I'm thinking we finally see that breakout game from Henry and can see maybe him get back to, at least for this game, averaging close to 5 yards per carry. There's that possibility for this game.
I hope so. I hope that we can see that because I think that that's just going to replenish that fear into other teams' minds and going forward, make them continue to stack the box like they have been, and it's just going to allow Ryan Tannehill to just keep playing at the level that he has been throughout a little bit further into the season until teams start to respect him again, in which at that point Derrick Henry will just have another monster game, and we'll just be living in a cycle for the next 4 years while we have those two under contract.
Right. And, that was the only way I don't see Derrick Henry having that breakout game this week is if the Texans do stack the box. And if we're able to have all of our offensive weapons back, that's not going to be good for their secondary because if they stack the box, Tannehill's fixing to have another big game. I mean, he had 4 total touchdowns against the Bills,
Well, what
I
he's doing
believe.
is he's making himself a damn fine candidate for MVP.
I agree. I can't argue that point at all. He's showing everyone now that while yes, in the playoffs, Derrick Henry was kind of the identity of our team. If you just sell out on Derrick Henry, Tannehill's going to tear your secondary apart.
Right. Well, we've pretty much, covered the bases of this game, laid out all the facts, unless it looked like you were
Now,
about to add something.
I am going to add one thing. The Titans' offensive line, I've already mentioned one guy that they need to watch out for with being J.J. Watt, but they also, coming off the other side, have Whitney Merciless. And, they're going to have to make sure to, I believe Merciless has 3 sacks on the season and Watt has 2. So, they just need to make sure that they keep those guys away from Tannehill because, like I mentioned, Watt's getting older, but he can still get back there and make some plays. I think if
Right.
they keep Tannehill upright, this game's not going to be good for the Texans defense.
So, like I was saying, and by the way, I agree. Got to continue to keep pass rushers away from Ryan Tannehill. But we've covered the bases of this game pretty much, so it's time to get to kind of our quick hitters, and we'll start with our keys to the game. And I'll just lay mine out there first because it's going to be real quick. They've got to stop the Texans on third down. They've had problems. I believe they were 13 of 17, or the Bills were 13 of 17 on third down against the Titans. And they're going to have to be better than that against the Texans. They're good at getting them to third down, but in this game, they're going to have to really finish strong on those drives and make sure they force the Texans to punt or kick a field goal. One of the two.
I'm also going to put my key to the game on the defense. I mentioned the Texans do have some weapons on offense. And just to kind of give you an idea here, there is about 4 or 5 of their receivers or tight ends included in this
Pass catchers.
that are pass catchers. Will Fuller is averaging 15.1 yards per reception. Randall Cobb 13.7, Brandon Cooks 16.6, Jordan Akins 12 yards, Darren Fells 15, and Kenny Stills 13. All those guys are averaging just a lot of yards per reception. I mean, double digits is really good for that many guys. The Titans have to make sure that they don't allow the big play down the field. Play it like they did against the Bills. They made sure that the Bills did not beat them deep for that one big play. Keep everything in front of them, and I think that's really going to be one of the main keys to the game that helps them come out with the win.
Right, and I agree. So both of our keys to the game came on the defensive side, and I think that's due to the fact that the offense has been so strong up until this point, and the defense has struggled. So with that being said, what is your bold prediction?
I keep going back and forth on this. I've thrown out the Derrick Henry bold prediction the past 2 times, and
And you
hadn't
just
been
can't
right on the yards.
quite seem to get it.
Hey, as long as he's getting the touchdowns that I predict for him, I'm happy with that because that means we're putting up points.
I'm just gonna keep my bold predictions crown on because I've so far been the only one to get one right, and I'm one ahead of you. I'm planning on getting mine right this week. I will extend that lead to 2, and by the end of the season, we'll see
Okay.
who's the king of the bold predictions.
Here's the thing. I'm going to challenge you a little bit more because I'm fixing to throw out a bold prediction for the defense and the offense, and I want you to do the same. I'm putting you on the spot with this.
Okay.
My bold prediction for the defense is
I'm incredible on the spot, in case you didn't know.
Is that Kevin Byard finally gets his first interception of the season and it will be a pick six. And I believe that would be the first of his career, if I'm remembering correctly. And my bold prediction for the offense is I'm going to stick with King Henry. He will have 145 rush yards and 3 total touchdowns, 2 rushing and 1 receiving.
Okay. First, I'm going to go with the bold prediction that I already had down, and that is defensively. And I think that as a whole unit on the defense, the Titans will finish with 4 or more sacks. That really just being because the Texans have struggled keeping pass rushers away from Deshaun Watson, and I just think that's going to continue to be the case here against the Titans. So 4 or more sacks. For the Titans defense. And then offensively, I hadn't really put thought into it because, you know, I figured we would just go with 1, but I'll just take this opportunity to increase my lead over you to 3-0. And what I'm going to say is that I'm going to actually make, I'm going to say that Corey Davis is going to be back for this game. It's very possible that he will be. So that is, there's going to be several steps that are going to have to happen for my bold prediction to happen. So that's the first step that has to happen. Corey Davis is going to be back. A.J. Brown will have to play. So there, I'm already putting my bold prediction in jeopardy because both of those guys have to play, taking a big chance there. And then I'm going to say that both of them have more than 80 yards receiving.
All right. So if even one of those guys is out, then your bold prediction is it's done for.
Right.
But I'm like you, I'm hoping that we can maybe have Corey Davis back. And like I said, I fully expect that A.J. Brown will be playing.
Yeah.
So we've put our bold predictions out there. Now it is time for our final score predictions. And just to go back to this because I always do.
You always do.
I know. Look,
at some point you're going to have to put it behind you. I feel like 3 years down the road,
no,
or
listen
however
to me.
many years down the
Listen
road,
to
the
me.
Titans are going to be playing a team that they have played this season,
Hey,
and you're going to be like, if you remember back in the 2020
hey,
season,
look,
I said that the Titans were going to beat this team.
here,
I'm going to go with that score again here.
Here is my reasoning for bringing this up because it shows how much things can change as the season goes on and everything. We both had the Titans winning this game when we done our original game predictions. You had them winning 24-20, and I had them winning 24-14. So just to kind of see how much our thought process has changed, especially considering over the past 3 weeks, the Titans have been putting up 30 plus points. With the only game they didn't do that in was the Denver game, and they left points out on the field. They could have been in the mid 20 range if they had made all the field goals. So I don't think either one of us expected this team to come out and be necessarily this explosive in putting up points. So I just wanted to see how much our predictions changed from what they were originally.
Well, I'll give you a simple answer. Mine has, between the two teams, changed a total of 7 points, 4 for the Titans and 3 for the Texans, 28-17 with a Titans win.
All right. I'm going to go with Titans 35, Texans 20.
35-20. You've changed quite a bit on yours. I'm sticking. I don't think the Titans are going to be able to reach that 30-point mark during this game, just because I think that with Derrick Henry having more success, it's going to be more of a slower paced game. And so that's why I've got them at 28.
Yeah, but if he's able to break off a couple of those big runs, he may score on them, and there's a couple of quick touchdowns for you.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, he's got to do a lot of wearing down before he breaks those big runs. And that's why I've got him at 28.
I can respect that. I just this team's been doing they've been really explosive and been putting up 30 plus points over the past 3 weeks. And against this Texans team, I think they can do it again. And fingers crossed that we don't see
I thought you were
any.
flipping me off.
No, just fingers crossed that we don't see any toss plays to Derrick Henry.
Agreed. A to Z Sports, Austin Stanley, he put out an article doing the exact same thing that you wanted to do. You wanted to see, an average of how many yards they were getting per toss play, and I believe it was like 1.1, 1.4, somewhere in that range. Really terrible.
It was like 1.18, something like that. I mean, not good at all.
But it was a great breakdown by him, and I was glad to see, because we've been wanting to see that stat, so I was glad to see that. And it reflected kind of exactly, how we felt about it. It's
right.
not working.
You sent that to me, and I'm glad to see that there is someone else out there who agrees with me. I mean, he even shared some of his tweets.
Been tweeting about it for weeks.
Right, and I've been talking about it since I think the Denver game. How they don't need to run that toss to him, and they keep throwing a couple in every game, and it's not working. I can't remember exactly, but he's maybe only had 1 or 2 runs that actually he was able to go over 10 yards on that toss.
I think one.
And yeah, I think one of them was for like 16.
Right, but which is his longest run of the season.
But then you have one that was like for a loss of 7. So here's to hoping we don't see many more of those.
Right. Guys, that's all that we've got for this week's episode. Hope that you enjoyed it. I do want to remind you that our giveaway is going to be ending here soon. You only have a limited amount of time remaining to enter that, and that is for one of these shirts. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see that. If you're listening on the podcast, it is one of our Titans Time shirts and a $20 gift card to the Titans Pro Shop. So even if you don't want the shirt, I feel like that is a great deal. Getting the shirt, super comfortable. I mean, even if you don't wear it, whatever. But $20 at the Titans Pro Shop. So you can enter that on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Our Twitter is Titans_time. Our Instagram, Titans Time Podcast. And our Facebook is Titans Time. Also, make sure that you check out our website, titanstimepodcast.com.
And guys, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Leave us that 5-star rating. Leave us some comments. Leave us some questions. Let us know how we're doing. Anything else you might want to hear. And if you leave us questions, we'll make sure to answer them on the next podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the post notifications, like the video, share the video, leave us some comments on there. We're always looking at the comments, guys, and trying to interact with everyone that listens to the podcast or watches the YouTube videos.
This has been Titans Time, and as always, tighten up.